the February 8th, 2023 Colfax City Council to order. We did not have a closed session this evening, so we'll go straight to Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we go ahead and get started with a roll call?
Councilmember Lemon.
Here.
Councilmember Douglas.
Present.
And Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza is not here, and Councilmember Ackerman is not logged on yet. And Mayor Burse.
Present. All right, we'll move to approval of the agenda order. Can I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Marguerite, can you let me know once David is logged on and capable of voting? That way I can move to a roll call vote. Perfect. All right, moving to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar will be moved on in one blanket motion. Anyone can pull an item from consent so that we can have a discussion. Would anybody like to pull anything from consent? All right, seeing none.
Move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, agency reports, starting with Placer County Sheriff's Department.
Ms. Mayor, gentlemen of the City Council, my name is John Tanneromi. I'm a Deputy Sheriff with the Placer County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to talk to you about our December stats because the machine hasn't popped out the January stuff yet. In the county, we had 3,790 incidents, made 119 arrests. In the city of Colfax, we had 138 incidents, 20 reports drafted. 20 of those incidents were related to transient activity. We responded to 18 suspicious activity calls, 7 general disturbances, 8 alarm calls. We made 17 traffic stops, issued 3 citations, made 5 arrests. We contacted 86 persons, responded to 4 false alarms, and we assisted another agency once. So it was a pretty good month for the city. The last time I was here was before we had a big storm, and we talked about being safe in the weather and obeying the CHP's signs and public works. And I think all the members of this community did a really good job at that. We didn't have very many problems. So we just wanted to thank the members of the community for being attentive to signage and direction from the folks that are trying to keep things run smoothly. We've had some complaints about kids riding dirt bikes in town. We continue to try to educate kids about riding dirt bikes in town. Dirt bikes are not a means of transportation to go to your friend's house and ride on the roads. And I personally stop and chat with kids and have them push their bikes home, and we call their parents and get them involved. Sometimes I don't know if that's actually that helpful. Depends on what home is like, but I hope it's making a difference. So we're educating for that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have none, Council, none. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Ackerman is online now.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Officer Jason Lyman from Gold Run CHP. We have had a lot of weather issues lately, but thankfully the last little bit's not been too bad. Last weekend, especially Sunday, was a real mess up on the road. It snowed and a lot more than they were anticipating it being, and for a lot longer than they were anticipating. One of our biggest problems that we had multiple multi-vehicle collisions that closed the freeway several different times. And again, we're just trying to remind people in the bad weather, you've got to increase your following distance, slow down. And, you know, like I said, there was one that had 5 vehicles in it, another two different ones with 3 big rigs and 3 or 4 cars. And, you know, and then, like I said, the weather was super bad. So, visibility issues. And so we ended up having to close the freeway for throughout the day, multiple hours. And which then every time you open the freeway back up after that, it's a real traffic jam and everybody's all upset and in a hurry and trying to, you know, make up time. And then that causes another problem. And so anyway, looks like we might have a little bit of weather this weekend, but not as bad. But we also have next week, you know, we have the President's Weekend coming up, which with all the great snow and everything we've got, there's going to be likely lots of traffic. Everybody's going to want to come up and go skiing, play in the snow and do that. We encourage that, but remember, you know, be safe about it. And if you're going to be playing in the snow, go to a snow park area or a ski area. And not just try to do it on the side of the freeway. We had people, I actually personally had to run some people off. They were on the ramp, but they were sliding from the freeway down to the off ramp. And then the kids were, you know, going into the off ramp is where they were ending up. And the parents thought that was just fine, you know. So we had a little educational moment there, and hopefully that will not continue. But does anybody have any other questions for us?
I don't.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So good evening.
All right, Placer County Fire Department / CAL FIRE.
All right, good evening, council members. Bob Counts, Assistant Chief with CAL FIRE, Placer County Fire Department, East Division. Placer County Fire Department as a whole in January ran 782 incidents. Of those 782 incidents, Station 30 here in Colfax had 87 incidents. And 59 of those were in Company 36's response area, which is the city of Colfax. Of those 59 incidents within the city of Colfax, we had 21 volunteer responses for about 36%. Happy to report Rescue 36 made it back that Friday after our last council meeting. And it already made the stat report and was running calls right after it got back. So thank you for that. And we actually had it out training this past week on airbags and rescue struts and stuff. So very happy to have Rescue 36 back and in the mix. We've had no significant incidents since our last council report. Couple other items of note. Our radio repeater site on Mount Hollow, it's called our Zone 7. It started out as a temporary repeater site to see how it would work, if it was feasible, if it provided better radio communications for us in this area. And that proved to be successful. And they've decided to make that a permanent radio site. So that's good news for us, for our radio communications back to our other units and our command center. So good news there. The Placer Sierra Fire Safe Council continues their efforts on their fuel reduction and their grant with Caltrans. It's a multi-million-dollar grant with collaboration with Caltrans, pretty much from Heather Glen all the way up to Kingborough, I believe. That's still moving forward. We're having periodic meetings with that, and it's currently in its environmental review phase. And lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about CAL FIRE's online burn permit process. January 1st, we rolled out a brand new online burn permit process. It had a few wrinkles with it. As Wes knows, he put me in contact with, I think he was an ex-council member, his name was Steve. And we worked through some wrinkles and got Steve going on a new burn permit. And initially, because Colfax is in the local responsibility area, it was not included. You would get a denied email every time you tried to do a burn permit. So I had to work with our Sacramento headquarters staff to have our area in Colfax, the local responsibility area, added into the overall map for approvals. So we got that worked out. Steve got his permit and everybody else should as well. So super easy. You log on. The address is burnpermit.fire.ca.gov. You watch a video, you sign a document, and it spits you out a burn permit at the end via email. So really cool. We can always still write paper permits at the station if anybody ever wants to do that. So feel free to come by the station, and we're going to have a kiosk set up here real shortly in the office at Station 30 that residents that don't have computer or internet access can come into the station, use our iPad kiosk and do their online burn permit there. So exciting stuff there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any of our nonprofits here this evening?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to let everybody know the chamber is this week, I think going to vote to replace the president at this point because Tim stepped down. So I think in future council meetings, we will probably have a representative coming.
Okay.
From the chamber.
Do you have anything for the chamber? Start Kim long enough, pressure him into.
Jim Douglas, I'm the ambassador at the chamber, and I wasn't really prepared for this, but I noticed nobody's here representing the chamber. But I think it's this Saturday, the chamber's having an event with a lot of vendors. So I just wanted to announce that there is going to be a lot of activity and vendors there at the chamber. So
What day?
I'm pretty sure it's this Saturday.
Okay, we'll make sure by the time we get to
Right.
the council reports that we know. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any presentations or public hearings this evening. It's time for public comment for any items not on today's agenda. Always count on you to show up.
Thank you, council and mayor and everyone else that's here. I just have a couple things to pass out to you guys, just for some basic information. So
Thank you.
So on the first page, that's just reiterating what I've been telling you guys. That was my state issued cannabis permit that I didn't get from the DCC and I didn't pay any money for. I got it from the California Department of Tax and Fee. The permit number was my sales, my resale certificate, and the CD is the cannabis tax account. And this is just at the same time that my dad was applying for and getting and being licensed in Colfax, I was able to get this license, and him as a business owner in that industry had no idea that thing was even available. We weren't informed of that. The second or third page is the definition of cannabis, commercial cannabis activity. Pretty self-explanatory, just for a reference. I know it's a little crooked to go through this, but the next page is a Colfax ordinance that around this time allowed M-type licenses and A-type retail licenses to be operated at the same location by the same operator who dispenses cannabis and cannabis products. So that's basically all we're asking for, that to be put back in there. That's the self-explanatory ordinance. It was a Colfax ordinance. The business license is on the next page, was our first license. We got it from 12/19/2017. There's no reference to medical. It's just a commercial business license. The page after that is the zoning letter, verification letter. And I believe that's the plenary power that was not granted, that was actually used in this letter. I don't think, honestly, that she had the power to decide that specific ordinance. As you will see, then there's the next business license that does have the medical. Then there's the Colfax commercial cannabis business permit that was April 2nd, 2018, same time, that was allowing for adult use cannabis activity, commercial activity. And then there's the part that we kind of missed was the priority licensing. So if we had the letter that was from Wes that explained we were in business, that automatically gave us priority licensing for commercial cannabis activity. And it explains it pretty good on that page. On the next page is Wes's letter explaining that we were in business and we were available to get the priority licensing. But the problem is when you sent this in, it says a license for retail sales. And it also says we're conducting commercial medicinal cannabis activity. Those aren't the two same things, because commercial medical cannabis activity at that point in time was not retail. It wasn't allowed. It was only distribution and cultivation. And the last page, number 9, is where it was taken out of the ordinance that says we were operating November 7th. And when you see where it says retailer is not crossed out, that was where everything changed. That's a fine point where one little word changed everything. And I have, other references to all this information, but this is just a little tiny bit of why I believe it's really not that hard for us to go back to what we were actually licensed adult use for 6 months, or at first from the state. And I just wanted to give you guys that information because I know we don't get much time to speak next week. And that's all. Thank you very much for your time. And I'm at work every day, so if you guys need to send me an email to ask for any questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. Do we have any other public comment this evening? Anything online?
There's nothing online.
Great. I'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll move to council and staff reports, starting with Sean. No worries. If you want, we'll just circle back around. Okay. So Kim, you want to go? Council and staff reports, yeah. Yep.
A few days ago, I met with the elementary school, the 2 8th grade classes, which will be graduating in a few months. And we taught them how to make Valentines for the veterans. So they made the Valentines and signed them and then turned them in the library. So it's all part of connecting with the school and the school connecting with us and indirectly part of the youth commission committee. So anyhow, Sean Newman's wife and I did that. And it's good to see the school and the city council getting connected again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so last week I also went to the school and I met with the student council and answered questions for them and let them know about our upcoming youth commission process. And by the way, thank you everybody for being patient with my very loud toddler in the background here. So the kids seem really, really excited about the idea of the youth commission. That I intend to go on the next agenda. I owe some documentation to Wes. It's been a very strenuous process trying to make sure that we're doing it within the legal requirements to have kids in a government position. So it's been a lot of homework on my part, but we should be able to kind of make that officially formal at our next meeting so that we can actually start receiving applications. And then that way you and Marnie are able to actually go through the interview process with these kids so we can establish it. What I'd like to see us do when we do that, as I was telling Kim before the meeting, I'd like to have the council members rotate attending those meetings with the kids because there's something different they're going to learn from every council member. And I think it's really important that they kind of understand the different styles and the different inputs and the different perspectives, because we want them to feel comfortable attending these meetings and feeling like they're just as much part of the process as we are. I think the hard part that kind of has come up throughout trying to get this all organized has been we need to, and this again is probably going to come up in the next meeting, and I'm hoping council can put some thought into this, what kind of items we want to send to that commission for them to consider and advise on. And then what kind of structure we want them to have as far as reporting back. So if everyone can kind of plan ahead so that they've got some ideas to brainstorm during the next meeting, I think that'd be really helpful. And then I had a LAFCO meeting this morning. I had a PCTPA meeting recently, and then I also have an air pollution control meeting tomorrow. Nothing has come up that is substantially notable for our city at this time. Just a lot of trying to play nice in the sandbox as a county. That being said, that's really all I got. Sean, you want to?
I didn't see anything this week, so this weekend's chamber event, so it must be next weekend.
Okay.
Following weekend. Just wanted to mention that there's still some tickets available for the Green Machines crab feed. It's March 11th. They're doing a crab and go to $60 a person.
Wait, what is it again?
Crab and go, so you can do it to go dinner too if you don't want to be there.
Oh, okay.
And all the tickets are $60.
Perfect.
And the funds are going to go to local sports and youth activities.
Oh, that reminds me. The high school also did their parent prom this last weekend, and it was so much fun. It was very successful. So I think they're going to go ahead and do that again next year. But that was a killer event. That was a lot of fun. I had too much fun. Anyway, Wes, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to mention a workshop, or excuse me, community outreach meeting that Caltrans is going to hold in this building on February 21st at 6 p.m. It's the Interstate 80 Blue Canyon Pavement Rehabilitation Project. The design is expected to be completed in December 2024, and the construction is to begin in fall of 2024. So if you have questions, you can go to the Caltrans website, or you can come to the council chambers on February 21st at 6 p.m. and ask your questions there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, well, it looks like we're ready for council business. We'll go ahead and start with the railroad street easement. Oh, I'm sorry, David, did you have anything to report?
Nothing at this time. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was terrible. Now we'll go ahead and move to item 9A. Wes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the item that I introduced as part of my comments at the last meeting. The city had an opportunity, and at the council's direction, the railroad street securement and easement through there for roadway acquisition is one of the things that's identified in the 2006 mitigation and impacts fee study. Council directed me a few years ago to start engaging that conversation with Union Pacific to try to come up with a value and to see if they'd even consider allowing us to have that easement for Railroad Street. Because currently, Margaret, can you move to the drawing piece of it? As you see on this map that we have up here, the elongated box looking, that is actually the section of Railroad Street that the city has no rights or access to. Our rights and access stops at the depot building. So what we're the hope and the goal is, to reduce the overall traffic impacts on South Auburn Street and others, is to actually develop that into another secondary roadway access that will lead out to Whitcomb Avenue on there. So after, like I said, 3 years of conversation, I finally got them to agree that under the conditions for which the land was acquired, that this is the only provision they have to actually allow access to for jurisdiction, is that is for utility and road easements on there. They originally wanted $6 a square foot for the price value of this, and I won't even bother you with what that cost looked like, but we were able to get them down to $2.25 a square foot. Ultimately, what this breaks down to is the majority of the fees to this project will be paid from the road impact fees. The road impact fees cannot be used for anything but for the projects identified in the study, and this project is one of the projects identified in the study at this point. There's a nominal amount of about $11,000 from the general fund that would be required to fill in the gaps of the funding for this project. Staff is recommending that council approve this because I don't know if we'll ever get this opportunity again on there. Next steps after this, if council considers it, down to the bottom of the diagram, you'll see a little block, a section where it's the railroad spur. If council approves this tonight, when we enter into the agreement with UP for the easement for the rest of it, we'll have to go through the rail crossing application with UP, and then we'll figure out what that value is and what treatments needs to be done there as well too. And once we have all that established, we kind of know the parameters and the needs that we have, then we'll be seeking grant monies. And I know Trinity was going to be actively soliciting PCTPA for some funding on that project as well too. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council or the community might have on this project.
I don't know, with the parking restriction and everything else, it seems like maybe I should go headstrong on SACOG for some money too. Any comments or questions from council? No? What about the public? All right, bring it back to the board for action.
I move that we approve it.
Second.
Awesome. Can I get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Councilmember Lemon,
Aye.
Councilmember Douglas,
Aye.
Mayor Burrs.
Aye. Awesome. Well, that's great news. Item 9B. Then turn that over to Mick.
That would be me. The process for meeting via teleconference is going to change. The official proclamation of emergency is going to expire February 28th. And what that does, you can meet under kind of relaxed noticing rules where you can meet from anywhere. You know, and you don't have to give the note. You don't have to give specific notice. You don't have to allow people to comment from where you're meeting from. So what likely is going to happen is the city is going to be, the council is going to be required to meet under what we call the old rules. And I'm going to kind of go through them very quickly. So maybe the council and public will see what's going to happen from after February 28th. Now, there is a rumor that the proclamation of emergency is going to be extended. I haven't seen any indication that it will. So that's only rumor. I think we have to assume that meeting under AB 361 is no longer going to be permitted. So when the proclamation of emergency expires, first thing you're going to have to do is post agendas at every remote location from which a council member meets. This applies to council members, not staff. So if you meet from home, you're going to have to post an agenda somewhere around your home that's accessible to the public. The place from which you're going to meet, if it's outside of City Hall, has to be mentioned in the agenda. Now, this is going to be a kind of a logistic issue because we're going to have to know, staff is going to have to know when the agenda comes out, who is going to be meeting remotely, so we can put in the agenda and notice of the meeting, which council members are not going to be here personally and which are going to be meeting remotely. And then we have to say where those council members are going to be meeting from. So if you can think about, if you're not going to be personally present at a meeting, just let staff know well enough in advance where you're not going to be here and be where you are going to be meeting from. Each location from which you meet has to be accessible to the public. So again, if you're going to be meeting from your home, if you're going to be teleconferencing in from home, you got to give the public access to your home. You can meet on your front porch or front lawn or backyard or whatever, but it just has to be accessible to the public. And at least a quorum of you, so at least 3 council members, when this is done, will have to meet from places within the jurisdiction of the city, not City Hall necessarily, but at least 3 of you are going to have to be inside city limits during every meeting. And you're going to have to allow, if people show up from wherever you're meeting from at your house, you're going to have to allow them to comment to you directly from your house. Those are the old rules. They've been in effect for a long time. It's going to be a bit of a dial-in period, I think, where we have to all get used to this again. There is an exception to this. There's AB 2449 that was passed, and it will allow council members to meet remotely without complying with the things I just went through. under emergency circumstances, which basically means physical emergency, which prevents you from being here, or for just cause, and just cause is very narrowly defined. Specific rules on that, you can only do it twice a year if it applies. We think it's very seldom going to apply to meeting in the city. So unless we hear otherwise, unless things change from the first meeting in March forward, anyone who wants to meet from a remote location, just let staff know, and the staff will make sure all the proper notices are done and agendas are prepared. So that's my report. The staff report's a lot more extensive. Well, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? David, do you have any questions or concerns?
I don't. At this time, I'm okay and I understand it. It is what it is. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Well, do we have any public comment on this item?
There's nothing online.
Okay, well, I think it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't sound like we need a motion or anything like that. The staff needs direction, and it sounds pretty straightforward that 99% of the time we're just going to be acting under the old rules. It would be so limited that the emergency situation would come up, and would we need to adopt a resolution to act under the new guidelines, or is that automatically available?
You're talking about the old rules or the
New.
No, you
The
do
new.
not have to adopt a resolution. It's on a case by case basis. What basically will happen is a council member will contact staff and say, hey, look, I can't be here because I'm in the hospital, something like that. And then we would proceed under the
Perfect. So
maybe.
really, you don't even need direction from us.
No.
I already gave you all the direction.
That's right. It's all information.
Awesome. Well, that is that. If anyone has any closing comments on that item, I'll go ahead and close that out. We're on go to the order. Start with Sean.
Just real quick, since the state's ending its state of emergency, we within the city have an official state of emergency due to COVID still standing. I don't know if we needed to make a proclamation, declare an end to that state of emergency officially or whatever, or anything.
I thought we did that a long time ago, didn't we?
I don't think we did.
We'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah, and just make sure we clean up some of those.
Yeah,
We've got a lot in the last 4 years. So make sure we've cleaned up all those if there's anything we need to do for official action or whatever.
Perfect.
That's all I had.
Kim, you got anything? David, you got anything for go to the order?
I do not. Thank you.
I don't have anything in there to staff. All right, we're adjourned.